scandal, managing it, and as poorly as it's been managed, in a year where authenticity is what everybody's talking about, has forced her on an almost daily basis, or certainly her campaign, to engage in a series of inauthentic acts, a variety of explanations that don't feel like you're getting the full story. As Peter Baker said on Face the Nation, the most authentic thing is that she didn't want to have to answer why she had this separate email system. That's her authentic view. It's just the authentic view was not sustainable. And so she's had the actual problem with the emails and what people have decided to think about that. Then she's had the fact that everything that is done outside of that looks like a stratagem to distract from the email story, even if it's not. And then finally, there's no kind of breathing room for her to launch a big speech about college affordability that might get people excited in the way that speech or a speech on that same topic is getting people excited with Bernie Sanders.
Is it possible that the email scandal will get worse? Or likely?
If it's true that the server has not been wiped, as the Washington Post reports, that in fact there's more recoverable on that server than it first seemed. At first, she said basically we got the impression that it had been completely, almost destroyed. If in fact all those 30,000 emails that were deleted are accessible in some way by investigators, I think that's an avenue for things to get worse.
But you guys, this is an important question. So does anybody know the answer as to who has possession of the server and whether the server has been A, wiped, or B, simply deleted?
Well, the FBI has it, but they're not doing they're not doing a political investigation or a journalistic investigation. They're doing a security investigation. So they're more interested in the question of whether classified information or secret information got into the wrong hands. It's possible that Congress will come after the server if it turns out that they learn that there is data on there, and that could be a big problem for her. I think if the FBI determines that there was a breach on her system, I think that potentially makes it worse. I think some of the issues involving her staff could potentially make it worse. The release of more of these emails coming out month by month could make it worse. And finally, this congressional testimony next month. Her history has been, when she's gone up to Capitol Hill, Republicans have completely misplayed their hand in the moment and in the aftermath, and she's come away victorious. Her team is confident she'll do that again. I'm not so sure this time. If I understand the way the committee's preparing, if I understand the way they're going to try to stage manage this, that may be a really bad day for her, rather than what her campaign hopes, which is it's a climactic day where she kind of stuffs them and ends their ability politically to continue to ask her questions.
Last word to Mr. Heilemann.
A big question we had around this table months ago was, what did she learn from her race in 2008? How different will the race be in that she runs now in 2016? And unfortunately for her, many of the things that were bad about her campaign in 2007 have replayed themselves in 2015. Yeah. Many of
even though it's a different team.
A different team. And again, ultimately in politics, the strength of your campaign always comes back to the strength of the candidate. Right. The strengths and the weaknesses are the candidate's strengths and weaknesses reflected in the organization around them. You think back to that campaign and how she ran in 2007, the problems that Democratic voters had with her, the passion that she did not inspire, the sense that she was constantly calculating and triangulating, the sense that she was operating as if she were the inevitable nominee and not someone who was having to work for every vote. Many of those things have replayed themselves now. Last week when you saw these stories about people in her campaign saying she will now project humor and authenticity, and stories about her campaign talking about focus groups that convinced her she had to apologize for the email, those were very reminiscent to me of the end of 2007 when she went out and announced her campaign to reporters she was going on a likability tour of Iowa. Like, who announces they're going on a likability tour? That rings of a hollowness and a phoniness. Again, she may turn out to be a great candidate. She was a great candidate in the spring of 2008, and she may get there now. But there's so many things redolent of that campaign last time. And this goes to the point Mark made. There are obviously a lot of Democratic voters who worry in various ways about the email thing, whether it will hurt her in the general election, maybe on the questions of her honesty and trustworthiness. But there are a lot of them who are not worried about that at all, but still are worried about, are not feeling the enthusiasm that as you see on the Sanders side for Hillary Clinton. And I'll say one last thing. In this ABC Washington Post poll, that just came out today. A few months ago, 71% of Democratic-leaning female voters in July said they expected to vote for Clinton. That number is now down to 42%. That's 30 among Democratic-leaning women.
Right.
That is the core of Hillary Clinton's constituency, and that is an alarm bell for her candidacy.
And that was the historic thing.